What's up, and welcome to the 49ers Camelot Show. I'm excited to have my guest, Brian Carter, today. Brian is a podcast 49ers content creator, has a show called Brian Carter 99, a 49ers podcast. Brian, what's up?
Just like we said, got off work and I was like, "Hey, let's go talk some football." There's never a lack of content,
That's
as we were just
right.
talking about.
That is true. So where can we find your podcast? We can find you on Twitter at Brian PNW99. So
Yep.
where can we find your podcast?
Just type in Brian Carter 99, no spaces. It should pop up on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Anytime I upload, it just kind of goes up into the cloud, however that works, and typically shows up on there. It's a picture of me like jumping on like a beach. So if you see like some guy like jumping on a beach with a big Niner logo,
Yeah,
that's it.
I saw that. I subscribed to your podcast, and I was like, man, was he gonna jump off a cliff? This must have been during the Jim Tomsula year. You're about to jump off a cliff. But hey,
Not quite.
I wanted to push this because you just sent me Brian Carter 99's 2023 NFL Draft Companion.
Mhm.
This is 85 pages. How many players are you
It
covering in
was
this?
over 220.
Wow.
And I'm not going to pretend like I spent like 10 hours on each player, but I watched 1 to 3 full games of each player before like putting my thoughts down of, like I don't like highlight videos because all they do is show you like
Right.
the best 5 or 20 plays that they've ever done. This was just like games. So I'd be like, cool, here's a guy I want to watch. And I would go and watch every snap that they played for 1 or 2 or 3 games. Sometimes I could only find 1 game. Sometimes there was 3. And then I would just, put my thoughts down on paper. And I finished at 2 a.m. last night. Now I'm just giving it out to every 49er fan. It's
This
typically
is
guys that are going to be
awesome.
available like 3rd round and on. I basically avoided anyone the first 2 rounds because we're not picking there.
Right. This if you would be interested in getting Brian's NFL Draft Companion, 85 pages, over 200 players he's covering here. So when the 49ers select one of these guys, you can come in and you can read about it. Man, he's got all kinds of information here. So reach out to him. What do you want him to reach out to you on Twitter? Is
That's
that
the easiest thing. Twitter, or just send me an email directly. But yeah, I'll just share the PDF. I'm just, like I said, just giving it away. If you want to make a donation, I'd be happy to take free money. But I'm not like selling it. It's just, this is a passion project. I've been working on it since January. I've been kind of interested in the draft the last 2 years, but this is like my first, like, I'm putting out my draft book.
Yeah.
But yeah, literally just DM me on Twitter, or you can send me an email, brian.carter99@yahoo, and I'll email it over to you.
This is great. And
Yeah.
so
It's just text,
again,
no pictures, nothing fancy. I
yeah,
think
and
it's
again,
literally
if
all like
you're
Times New Roman size 12.
yeah, it is a ton of information. So if you want this, reach out to Brian on Twitter at BrianPNW99, and he'll get that to you. So that is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, is because I know that you're a draft guy and you really know your stuff. So I'm excited that that we can talk 49ers and talk draft today, and just kind of see where things go from there. But
Yeah,
before
absolutely.
we get into any kind of draft or 49ers stuff, as far as the team goes, I wanted to jump into John Lynch's media session today. He had a press conference and addressed some things. Were you able to watch that live or check it out later?
Not live, but like 20, 30 minutes after it happened, I was like driving around for work. I had to go a few places, so I just like put it on. I was listening to it in the car. So I did have a chance to chance to listen to the whole thing. And then I saw that they had like Jake Brendel on after that, and then
Hmm.
I just turned it off. So I don't know what else there was, but I watched Lynch's comments.
Yeah, I don't. I was around for Lynch and Brendel, but then I had to split, so
Yeah, I'll
I
watch him tonight.
I don't know who else they had. Maybe I feel like I heard Fred Warner was on there, but what
I
were
love
some of your
Fred,
takeaways?
his signature.
Oh, that's really cool. That's awesome. So, did you have anything that jumped out to you? Like one of the things that I wrote down was that Frank Gore, Lynch said that Frank Gore has sat in on a lot of 49ers draft meetings, which we know
Yeah.
that Frank Gore is he has a very high football IQ. And so I think this
Mhm.
is a good thing. He's a legend in the Bay Area with the 49ers. And one of the interesting things, I don't know if you heard this, but Matt Mayoko said that he spoke with Frank Gore, and Gore is really high on Sam Darnold. So
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like Frank Gore and Sam Darnold, it could be because they were teammates, so he's just like backing his guy. I mean, Frank Gore never played with Trey or Purdy or
Hmm.
I don't even think Jimmy, so it would make sense that he'd, like Sam Darnold. And from what I've seen, Sam Darnold seems like a nice guy. Um, I do think that it is really cool that he's getting involved, and I feel like it's kind of going to be a similar to thing to like Joe Staley, because
Hmm.
they had a similar thing with Joe Staley. I don't know if you remember, like a year or two ago, where
Yeah.
they came in, he was in the meetings, he was at
Hmm.
a like training camp for I think like a week or something, where he came in and he was working with guys and talking to the coaches. Um, and yeah, I think it was one of the things John said about that was that it was one of those things where a long time ago, John Lynch was given an opportunity to kind of be a part of these meetings, and that kind of like sparked his fire. And so he wanted to do that for Frank.
Yeah.
And I think it's a cool thing. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I mean, the more Frank Gore we can get, the better. And again, who knows what the level of input's going to be? Maybe it'll be that he goes the Joe Staley route and he ends up being a
Hmm.
TV personality, or maybe he ends up being like a assistant running backs coach or something like that. But I do
Yeah.
think it's pretty cool. I like Frank.
Yeah. Definitely. And I see Frank as more involved with the team than the media side. I think that he wants
Yeah.
to get into coaching or some kind of competitive part of it. So here's some other things that I
I
wrote
feel like
down
he's
as
one of those guys who just he played so long. I just don't think he ever lost that competitive fire.
yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like, I still want to win.
Right. Yeah. So I wrote down some other notes from John Lynch's press conference. He said that he and Trey Lance have talked about the potential of him being traded. Lynch says that there's been good communication and that the team is excited about Lance's opportunity to go compete. He just didn't
Hmm.
say go compete where. So I don't really know how to take that.
I feel like it's the way that you take it is the way that you take pretty much everything from Lynch, which is that Lynch is, I don't want to use the term politically correct, but he answers in like a politician's way where
Yeah.
he can give you an answer. He can say exactly what he wants you to hear, without actually saying anything important.
Right.
I think that's just kind of it's a great thing, and it's also frustrating. It's great because in a way, it's an extremely honest, upfront, and open front office. Like the transparency that we get from Lynch and Shanahan is awesome. Um, but sometimes they also pick their words so carefully
Hmm.
that it's easy to uh, misunderstand or like put your own spin on things just because they gave a non-answer as an answer.
Yeah.
So I think he did say Trey's on the team, and like one of the things that I've been personally adamant on, I don't know if you heard the episode where I just like ranted for 20 minutes about drama with the
Right.
quarterback.
Yeah.
And it's like nobody knows anything
Hmm.
because nobody knows how Purdy's elbow is going to be. If
Yeah.
Purdy's
Exactly.
elbow never got hurt, then there may have legitimately already been a Trey Lance trade
Mhm.
because they really like Purdy, which makes
Mhm.
sense because he played really well as a rookie for half a season and they got to like, the foot of the Super Bowl.
Mhm.
But with the elbow, it's like a surgery on your throwing arm. And the timeline is like he might be ready in like the first month of the regular season, maybe a week earlier, maybe a week later, but he's not going to have a full healthy offseason. He's rehabbing, and we have no idea how the surgery or the rehab is even going to go. Like the the best thing that we can get as far as an update is in mid-June. Like in mid-June, we'll actually learn
Exactly.
something, but up until
Yeah.
then, it's literally all just like, I don't know, they cut open his elbow and we're hoping for the best.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
like Lynch said, we're hopeful. It sounds like he's ahead, whatever that means. And Purdy's working hard, which
Right.
I believe. But with the huge question marks around the elbow, like why would you get rid of Trey? He's a
Mhm.
valuable asset with a lot of potential. One of your other questions was like the QB roller coaster. I think that I think Trey should beat out Sam Darnold, and I think that he's probably going to start the first 2 to 4 weeks of the season, and then depending on how he plays, when Purdy is 100% ready, then it'll be a question of, hey, have you played so well that we're going to keep Purdy on the bench? Or, hey, it's been kind of good. A bit hasn't really. We know how good Purdy was. He's been fully cleared. We've gave you a month. We're heading into week 5. We're going to hand it back over to Purdy. I think
Yeah.
that's the more realistic kind of option.
Yeah, I am totally with you on that. Want to acknowledge East Coast Red and Gold podcast. They say, "What's up, faithful?" So, hey, thanks for joining us, and go check out East Coast Red and Gold podcast. They're doing great stuff out there. So,
Yes.
um, so one of the other things that Lynch said, he said that Purdy's on schedule. He said that regarding the Trey Lance trade rumors, he said, I think there's a lot of smoke. Really, it hasn't been extremely active.
No.
Um, One of the interesting things is that he said that he's going to speak individually with Brandon Ayuk and Javon Kinlaw before the 49ers publicly announce if they're going to pick up their fifth year options. I thought that was interesting.
That
I
is a
t-
little odd.
I take that as we're going to pick up Brandon Ayuk's fifth year, but not Javon Kinlaw's. How did you
Yeah.
take that?
That's I I think that's what makes sense. I mean, I have been hoping that Kinlaw would work out for, going on year 4. But the knee hasn't held up. It's a lot of money to spend on a rotational, because like what would the fifth year option be? Like 10 or $12 million or something? Like he was a top 15 pick. So I think that you do Ayuk because he's awesome. And I think timeline, I know we don't want to get too far ahead, but if you look at Ayuk this year and next year with the extension, the next 2 seasons, at that point, that's when you can have a real discussion in terms of, hey, Debo or Ayuk, because
Mm-hmm.
Debo will be going into, I think, year 3 of his extension, while
Mm-hmm.
Ayuk will be going into potentially the first year of an extension. So you can determine whether or not you want to keep Debo, and then you can kind of flex the cap a little bit with Ayuk. So it's like a 2 year down the road wide receiver thing, but I think you're right. I think that he wants to tell Ayuk, hey, we're keeping you around. And he wants to tell Kinlaw, hey, we love you, but it hasn't worked out, and we hope it does. And if Javon Kinlaw has a good knee and he's really productive and plays really well, then maybe he does get an extension. But I don't think you can give him that fifth year option.
Mm-hmm.
It's not smart. Not smart
Yeah.
from the front office.
So if the 49ers have to decide at some point, do we keep Debo Samuel or do we keep Brandon Ayuk? Who are you deciding? Brian Carter, you're the general manager for the day. Are you keeping Debo or are you keeping Ayuk?
I think that in 2 years, it's going to be, for me, obviously go with Ayuk. I love Debo. I have a signed Debo jersey. But he has an incredible season and then he has a down season and it kind of goes like that. And this type of football that he plays is just kills his body. And he's older too. Not
Mhm.
like old, but
Right. Yeah.
when his contract is going to be up, he's going to be pushing 30 and the way he wins and the reason why we love him is because he runs through guys' faces. But that's going to really wear on you when you're pushing 30 years
Yeah.
old as a receiver. And I'd
Right.
much rather how much time has Ayuk missed due to injury? I
Yeah.
think zero.
Right. Yeah, I don't
So
think
I
he
would
has.
obviously pick up Ayuk. I think he's a better route runner. Um, I mean, Debo is incredible, but I think you go with the ascending younger guy who doesn't have, some injury concerns.
Right. Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I'm keeping Ayuk if I have to choose. Hopefully they don't have to choose, but
It'd be hard
if
in
they
like
do.
3 years. I feel like we're in this window right now where we've got like 3 years because you've got Trey and Purdy with 2 to 3 years. Trey with a fifth-year option. You got 3 years of cheap quarterback.
Mhm.
But at that point, it's like Bosa's going to start costing a lot of money. Kittle's going to be getting older. Trent Williams is probably going to be retiring sometime in the next 3 or 4 years, I would guess. Fred Warner is going to be, looking at 30 in like 3 years, along with another contract extension. So I feel like we've got this 3 year window where you can just like throw all this money at like everything except quarterback. But
Mhm.
there's probably going to be a really big transition in 2 to 3 years, depending on how the quarterback situation works out.
Yeah, I
But
think
there's such a
Trent
good
Williams.
core. Like the
Yeah,
Super Bowl window is open for the
right.
next 3 years.
Right. I think for Trent Williams, I am going to give him another 2 years. I mean, he's already started talking about maybe I don't want to do this again, So if those thoughts are starting to come, then I just don't know how much time he's going to have left.
Yeah.
So let me ask you
I
this
can
in
imagine,
regards.
I can imagine what it does to your body.
Oh
Like, I'm
yeah.
about to turn 34 and, like, even just from, like, 5 years ago, I wake up and just everything hurts. I couldn't imagine playing football.
Yeah, I know. Well, let's shift gears a little bit to the draft. When that happens, we're recording this on Monday evening, and the draft, of course, starts Thursday evening. So, do you pay any attention to who the 49ers have had visits with? Or is that not really that important? You hear some people say it's very important, pay attention, and you hear some say it's not that important because there's smoke screens and all things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does make sense, and it's different for every player. Like, sometimes they're not gonna bring someone in even though they know they want them. Like, I think Mike McGlinchey wasn't brought in, they had never talked to him, like, he had no idea that he was gonna get picked, and they knew from the beginning, like, "Hey, we're picking Mike McGlinchey at, like, pick 10 or pick 9 or whatever." Um, so it could be that their favorite guy they don't bring in. But there's
Right.
also other people that they bring in because maybe there's questions, whether it's a medical thing or a character thing or an effort thing or something like that. I think that for me, it's like I want to see if there's something that I'm missing that maybe they're looking for. Like, for example, there's a running back, Deneric Prince. I've seen
Mhm.
some people ranked him like as low as like a seventh rounder, undrafted free agent. I watched the film and I'm like, dude, this guy's awesome. He's 6 foot, 215, runs a 4.4, breaks tackles, breakaway speed. This guy's a stud. And then it's like, all right, they bring him in for a visit. Well, what's the red flag? Missed 4 games for academic suspension. Okay. They're probably bringing him in because they're like, hey, we really like the tape, but what's up with the academics? Because this team cares a lot about off field
Mhm.
character stuff. So that could be one reason. Um, There's also, I like looking at the top 30 just because it might find you a late round gem. So, like Shaquille Brown was a defensive tackle out of, I think it was Troy, that they brought in on a top 30 visit. Like, not on my radar, never heard of him, but hey, they brought him in. I'm going to go watch some film. So I went and I watched a couple games. I liked him. Maybe he's an undrafted guy or like a 7th round defensive lineman that they like. And you also look at what position groups are they meeting with, because that gives you an idea about where they're kind of targeting in the draft. So I think I don't know if that answers your question. For me,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, late round, like mystery prospects I wasn't thinking of, character or some kind of
Hmm.
concern that you might want answers to. And then just in general, hey, what position groups are they targeting?
Yeah.
But I don't think it's everything.
Okay.
That's kind of
So,
how I looked at it, though.
right. Well, I think it was last week you did a podcast on whether or not the 49ers should draft a running back this year.
Yes, I
You
did.
said that you believe they should draft one every year, but not until day 3. So
Mhm.
last week I
That's my
had
personal
Jordan.
philosophy.
Yeah. Last week I had Jordan Elliott on, and he wants the 49ers to draft Texas running back Roshan Johnson in the 3rd round. And he had
Why?
his reasons on it, that Johnson has been primarily a backup, and so he doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on him. He's big, he's strong, and he felt like the 49ers need somebody like that. With some of the, like, Elijah Mitchell gets hurt a lot, Christian McCaffrey gets hurt a lot, and
Jordan Mason's big and strong and hasn't been
Mhm.
hurt.
Yeah,
Ty Davis
so
Price is big and strong. I mean,
yeah,
he
and
had an
he's
injury or two, but he's big and
yeah,
strong.
and he hasn't played very much, but Jordan's really big on Johnson. So where are
Okay.
you at? Obviously, it sounds like you're totally against drafting another running back in the 3rd round.
Yeah, just because I think that there's much more important and valuable positions. Um, that I kind of also, it's important to think about the draft in terms of positional value and like depth. Like, realistically, if we spend a 3rd round pick, like let's say pick 99, we draft a running back. How much is he going to play and how much of an impact is he going to have on this team? Well, we've already got 5 running backs if you count use check. So he's going to be competing for a backup position. Potentially he's going to be like inactive unless he's a super stud and he can beat out Elijah Mitchell and he can beat out Jordan Mason. So at best, we're looking at a running back 2. Well, I would much rather get a right tackle or a defensive end that can work in with like the pass rush rotation
Hmm.
or, a safety. Like I just think there's more important and valuable positions. Now, again, I do think that it always makes sense to draft one. I just don't think that you need to, because there's going to be guys that are productive in the 6th round, like Elijah Mitchell. He was a 6th round pick. He had 900 yards as a rookie.
Yeah.
And I think that, every year there's the running backs fall and there's productive guys that you can pick up in day 3. And Roshan Johnson's good, but like I don't think that he's worth taking over an impact defensive end or something like this.
Hmm. So platform 246 is asking, is this a stream asking, will Trey be traded? Yeah, that is one of the questions that we're asking.
Yeah,
We
we
talked
talked
about it
about it for
just a
2
little
minutes.
bit, but we haven't kind of jumped into that. So let's interrupt the draft talk for just a
Okay.
second, since platform 246 is jumping in here and asking. He's controlling, or she, whoever this is, they're controlling what we're doing here. So John Lynch sounded like, no, they're not going to trade Trey Lance. What do you think? Are they gonna end up doing that?
I don't think they're going to do it. It doesn't make sense in the sense of if you trade Trey Lance, it hurts the cap more than it helps. So it actually costs more against the cap to get rid of him. On top of that, you don't know when Purdy is going to be healthy enough to play. It could be that he's ready for week 1, or he might not be ready until week 4 or week 6, in which case you're betting on Sam Darnold. We won't know anything until June, which means that it's going to have to be a really good draft pick in order for them to do that. And then it needs to happen basically in the next 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
So if Trey is going to get traded, it's going to happen between now and Thursday, because I don't think that they're taking anything lower than like a high second round pick.
Right.
Because again, like, then what are you doing? Like rolling with Sam Darnold and nobody who can throw the football for training camp?
Mm-hmm.
Because like, who's throwing the football in training camp? You need 3, sometimes 4 quarterbacks just to throw the ball in.
Oh, I think I just lost Brian. Looks like I lost him. So hopefully he'll get back in here. So yeah, platform asked, why are you asking that? The reason that we're asking that is because these are the rumors that are out there. So, all right, welcome back, Brian. We lost you there for a second.
It's technology. It's great until it stops working.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, I agree with you. I don't really think that it's gonna. I don't think that it's gonna happen at all.
Yeah.
If it does, I think that it's gonna happen after Brock Purdy starts throwing, and they can tell that he's fine. Because, like you said, they need Trey Lance right now. So I don't think it's gonna happen. A lot of
If
people
you're
are
trading him, it's
asking,
going to be like the week 7 or week 8 trade deadline, because Purdy's playing really well. They're comfortable with Darnold, and they get a good offer.
Mhm.
But that's honestly, that's the only time when I see it happening, is like week 6 to week 8 before the trade deadline.
Yeah,
Just because what are you going to do then? Like, what are
right.
you going to do?
All right, well, let's jump back into the draft, because we've decided that the
Please, I'm
49ers are
so tired
not
of
going
quarterback
to,
drama.
yeah, they're not going to trade Trey Lance. I'm standing on that they're not going to do it. So there
I
you
will
have it.
bet all the money in my wallet that we will not trade Trey Lance until at least Purdy is healthy in the season. There's
Yeah.
a couple $100 in
So
there too.
Mara says trading Trey also feels like a logistical nightmare. Like, why? He's still valuable to us.
Yep.
Absolutely. And
That's
he
my girl.
could,
That's
like,
my
his
woman.
upside. Oh, she's watching you. Okay. All right.
She's on the East Coast
So wait a
for
minute.
work, so she's coming in.
All
She
right. So
wanted to
you
watch the game.
said that you had to start your podcast. You told me you had to start your podcast because she's like, "Hey, I don't care about this stuff. What are you talking about?" So,
No,
but
she cares, but she didn't understand as much, and she's learning a lot because she's trying, because we love each other.
well, I tell you what, she is spot on right here, because there's no reason for them to trade Trey Lance. I still believe in him, and I still think that he can do great things. Platform says, "Thank you, gentlemen. You are welcome, my friend. Hope that you have a good rest of your night." So yeah,
Okay.
let's jump back into this this draft talk. So third round, if they don't trade up, and I think it's possible that they will. I do a 49ers mailbag
Yeah.
for 49ers web zone. And we just opened the mailbag today, and we're getting in some questions that people are asking. Are the 49ers going to trade up, or are they going to? So Mara says, "Hey, no, I care." All right, good.
See?
I'm glad. So they're asking, are they going to pick use all 11 of these draft picks, or are they going to trade up? I think that they'll do some trading up, because 11 draft picks aren't making this roster. This roster's too good. So if let's say they stand pat where they are in the third round and they don't trade up, who do you see them being interested in at that point?
I don't know exactly, but it seems like they definitely have some position groups that they've been targeting. So they've met with almost every single tight end at the combine. They definitely seem to be doing a lot of research on tight ends, and there's a lot of good tight ends in this class. Um, they've definitely been doing the similar thing with defensive ends, so like
Hmm.
edge rushers, which I think is kind of a sneaky need because you've got Bosa, but he's going to be making like 30 plus $1 million a year. And then after that, you've got Drake Jackson and then a couple other guys that are on 1 year contracts. So you have no depth. It's the perfect time to like load up
Yeah.
on some inexpensive rookie defensive linemen because you get that 4 year cost controlled rookie contract. Um, but tight end, defensive end, and if there's a good offensive tackle, I think those are three really good things to target there in that kind of late third round. Obviously, safety, corner for like depth and development, but I would say those are probably, if I were to guess, the kind of three target areas. As far as who specifically, I have no idea. I
Yeah.
have a few favorites, but you never really know like who's gonna draft
Hmm.
and drop and who's gonna be there on draft day. You
Yeah,
can
that's
read the
easier to
guide for my favorites.
yeah, it's easier to predict when they're picking in the first round, but yeah, by late third round, that's hard. But so
Mhm.
in your draft companion, you have your favorites listed in there. Do you have those designated?
Yeah, kind of. I tried to sort it fairly. I tried to make it pretty simple in terms of organization. It's basically just by position. So it starts out like interior offensive line, and I just go like by my grades, essentially best to worst. So
Hmm.
just who is the best offensive interior offensive lineman that I walked? That's the first name. Who's the second best guy that I watched? That's him. It just goes through that position by position,
Do
and
you
then
have any? Do you have anybody that you're thinking like in the later rounds that whether it's positions or specific players that you might like to see there?
I got a lot.
200 and something of them.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like all of them. I did notate on there like which ones were like my guys, like my favorite guys. Um, I think safety is kind of a sneaky need, just because Tayshawn Gibson is older,
Hmm.
and we're gonna need. They like to develop and kind of redshirt guys. Like
Right.
Hufanga barely played his rookie season, started his second season. Aaron Banks barely played his rookie season, started his second season. So I could see something similar to that with like free safety. Couple of guys that I like at free safety. Jay Ward, the defensive back out of LSU, kind of a converted corner to free safety, played a lot of slot and free safety. Um, Another guy that they brought in for a top 30 visit that when I watched the film, he reminded me of Jimmy Ward, was Jordan Howden
Hmm.
out of Minnesota, I think it
Okay.
was. I had a fifth round grade on him. And another guy that I really liked was, oh, what's his name? Out of Memphis. These are like my favorite guys. Where is it? Where is it? I can't find him. Anyways, Memphis. It's like Quindell Johnson or something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, but those are a couple like late round safeties where if we got like one of them, like I would love that. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, Quindell Johnson, Memphis safety, but he's kind of more of like a hybrid, strong safety or free safety, whereas the other
Uh-huh.
guys are more slot free safeties.
Okay.
But yeah, there's like a couple like fifth round safeties that I think would be really good fits on the team. Just again, my personal favorites if you want a late round safety.
Yeah. And you like running back late, just not in the
Yeah.
third round.
Yeah, I mean, there's a half dozen running backs I would love to grab in like the sixth round, when they're there.
Okay.
Because you spend a sixth round pick on them, and I mean, if they make the team, that's great. If they don't, oh well, it's a sixth round pick. It's cost controlled. Running backs get hurt, so you got to have a stable of them.
Yeah.
Um, I just don't like spending high picks on them, but I think you
Right.
should get one every year.
Yeah. How do you feel about getting a quarterback every year? They've been looking at a few.
Um, Somebody said every other year. I think that makes more sense, but I do think it makes sense to we're going to add another quarterback. The question is just when. Is it going to be a 6th or 7th round quarterback, or is it going to be undrafted? The tricky thing with quarterback is that unless something really bad happens with Purdy's rehab, or Trey actually gets traded, or Sam Darnold gets cut, we're not keeping 4 quarterbacks, so I
Mhm.
highly doubt a rookie that we draft is gonna make this team.
Mhm.
So it doesn't make sense to spend a high pick on him.
Yeah. So, apart from the draft, because obviously it's on Thursday, just a few days away, so there's no way to know at this point what the 49ers are going to do. So, with just kind of take the draft out of it right now, where they stand, do you think they're as good right now as they were heading into the NFC Championship game? Obviously, coming out of it, they had an injured quarterback, but are they as good right now as they were heading into that game?
I think yes, and I think that in terms of how good they are, I think that it's equal. They are different, but I think that you lose McGlinchey, so you've got a big question mark at
Mhm.
right tackle, but you added the best defensive tackle available.
Mhm.
So, your offensive line takes a small step back, but your defensive line is taking a step forward.
Right.
And I feel like the rest of the kind of additions and losses kind of balance each other out. It's like, hey, it sucks that we lost who is like one of the defensive linemen. It sucks that we lost him, but hey, we picked up Cleveland Farrell and Austin Bryant. We're probably going to add another rookie or two. Plus, we added Javon Hargrave. Hey, it sucks that we lost, oh gosh, I don't know,
Jimmy
Tyler
Ward.
Croft, our backup
Mm.
tight end,
Mhm.
but we've still got Dwelly and Warner because,
Mhm.
of course, we do, and we're probably going to add another tight end or two.
Right.
So I feel like we're just about the same. I don't think that we've got. Let me put it this way: I don't think we've got noticeably worse
Mhm.
because of the addition of Hargrave.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, and like it is always on here, it's going to come down to the quarterback.
Yep.
That's what it all comes down to for the 49ers and really
Sam
for
Darnold's going to win
every.
us a Super Bowl.
Yeah. If you ask Frank Gore, then that may very well happen. Hey,
Uh,
Brian, thanks so much for joining. You were great tonight. I love
Thanks for
your
having me.
love all that you're doing with the draft. And so y'all check out Brian. Check out his podcast, Brian Carter 99. It's a 49ers podcast. You can find it on Apple. What did you say? Spotify.
Yeah, Apple and
Um,
Spotify. Also, if you just follow me on Twitter, I will always post. I'll pin my most recent podcast.
okay.
So it's really easy to just like, hey, if you look me up on Twitter, just go to my page. Literally, I'll always have one of my podcasts pinned, like one of the most recent ones. So right now I'm doing the Should We Draft series.
Hmm.
So like 5 or 10 minutes of, hey, each position should we draft a blank,
Yeah. And
and
those
I've
are
got
great,
that
by
like
the
I've
way.
got that pinned.
Yeah, those are great. Go check them out. Brian's doing great work. He just were on with John Chapman. What last was that last week?
Yeah, last
Something
week.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and John does amazing work, of course. So if he's bringing Brian in to talk draft, that's what because I've already been following Brian and I already was subscribed to his podcast. But when I saw John had you on, I was like, oh man, I need to because I was looking. I want somebody on here to talk draft. I mean, I've had some, Jordan Elliott and Steph Sanchez and who else did I have?
They're way more famous than me though.
Yeah, but I really liked what you were doing and how you were breaking things down. So that was really cool. So
Thank you.
Jason Aponte, I had all three of them like back to back to back. And they were great, but you were great too. So thanks for
Thank
joining
you.
me. And so go check out what Brian's doing. And while you're at it, go subscribe to the 49ers Camelot podcast so that we can continue to grow this and reach more 49ers fans.